G'day, this is Expand the Phantom Podcast. We are a website, a podcast, and a way of life. And you can find us at chroniclechamber.com. I am Jermayn, and in this podcast, we are going to be talking about the Mad Cave Studios regular series, issues 1 to 5. First of all, let's introduce the team that we've got today. Starting in Australia, on the other side of Australia. Steve, how are you, mate?
I am doing really well, Jerm. Really looking forward to talking about this series, and I'm extra happy the people in Australia will appreciate this. Well, they won't appreciate it, but the Mighty Hawks are back on the winners list again today. This means nothing to our other guest, but it means something for me, and I'm really happy, particularly after the big week I've had at work-wise. So it was nice to have a nice win last night.
And you got an excuse to be able to leave the crappiness at the door and be able to enjoy yourself today as well. So
that's right. I will say I didn't sleep well last night. There's been a bit going on, but it's always good to talk Phantom.
It is. And talking about dealing with crappiness, we have Scott from the US. How are you, mate?
Is that an indication of how things are going on over here? We are surviving. We're doing okay. We're hanging in there. It's been a good week. I'm jazzed to talk about all 5 of these issues. We have a complete first story here. I hope there are many, many, many more after this. I know we got some one-shots coming. But yeah, we'll see. We'll break down and get into it.
Yes, and we will talk about what is to come and stuff like that. I always enjoy in these podcasts talking about the future a little bit as well. So we will make sure that is on the run sheet. Now, before we get into talking about the series, now we're not going to go issue by issue. We're going to talk about it as a whole. But before we do that, we have an amazing announcement, and that is we have a prize. So as you can see, if you're on YouTube, you will see 6 issues here. If you are on audio only, we have a cover of 1G by Natasha Bustos, and then we have 5 copies of a exclusive variant cover by Boom Tube Comics, and this is an exclusive artwork by Keith Williams. Now, we have these 6 issues to give away. Now, to enter, all you need to do is give us your review of Mad Cave 1 to 5. And you can do that either by posting it on the social media posts where we promote this podcast, or you can do it on YouTube. Now, that is how you enter. If we only have 6 entries, 6 people giving their reviews, all 6 of them get a comic free posted to them. Now, if we get more than 6, which hopefully we do, we will then do a draw and go from there. So to get one of these, now these are sold out, these exclusive covers. To get one of these, all you need to do again is post your review and thoughts on the series on either the social media post or on the YouTube link as well. Okay, so there will be people on here who have not yet read the series, so there will be spoilers. I can't remember when the trade paperback comes out for this. Do you remember that, Scott?
No, I don't have it quite in mind. Usually it's about 3 to 6 months after the last issue.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So there will be spoilers. And what we're going to do is we're not going to be going issue by issue because Scott has already done a fabulous job in reviewing issue by issue. Steve is going to give us a quick synopsis, and then we're just going to then we're going to discuss it, hopefully around an hour and not too much longer. But you have been warned that may not happen.
So the Singh Brotherhood are on the hunt for their missing drug cargo. Little do they know that they have landed in the Phantom's backyard. What they think will be a quick and easy track, retrieve, enslave the village, and then get out again, turns into a dire game of cat and mouse, with the cat not realizing it is actually the mouse. But it's no walk in the park for the Phantom, though. This is the jungle, and the jungle has its own mind. There is a beauty in its danger, and if you can be at one with it, then you may just get out alive.
Yeah, well done, mate. Anyone would think that you've spent probably about 4 hours writing that synopsis. It
It was
was
more.
very, very beautifully written.
Thank you. That was about 4 minutes before we started. So
No, I want people to think we actually put a lot of time and effort into this.
there's a lot of effort. I don't have the time, but there's a lot of effort.
So, Steve, give us your overall thoughts on the story, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, overall, I think I'm more positive than negative on the story. As I was reading it again, rearing up for the podcast, the negatives are glaring, but I was trying to push those aside and just think about the story. And the story is enjoyable. Like I said in the synopsis, I enjoy this cat and mouse style. It's a bit of it would make an awesome movie. The thriller type thing. Something that really stuck out to me, I think, is issue 2. The main part of that issue is the conversation between Asif Singh and Garan, and it could be boring, just an interview scene, but I'm thinking about it in a movie or something like that. That's where the tension really builds up, and where Asif thinks he's in control, but slowly but surely the control is going towards Garan. He doesn't realize that Garan's actually in control the whole time. He understands that Garan's quite smart and knows what he's doing, but doesn't quite understand how far Garan's actually gone. So I like those little tidbits to it. I like the little Easter, we've already mentioned in other podcasts, and I think we mentioned it just before as well. The foreshadowing of the Sky Band, and they come into it. So there's the lead off in there, so we can hook onto that in the one shot, which is something to look forward to. Like I said, the overall story I enjoy. The recharacterization of the Bandar is good. I don't mind it. Some things it could be a bit jarring. Garan's no longer, a small, fat little fellow. He looks quite fit and what have you, a bit more in shape. But those little things, that's the writer's interpretation and things you can play with, I guess, without taking away too much of what makes the Phantom the Phantom. There are some things that do turn away from, and I can talk about those later if you like. But at the moment, overall, I found the story enjoyable.
So, Scott, probably as the newer fan out of the three of us, but also the one that probably reads more American comics than the other two of us put together. Like, what are your thoughts? Because obviously you come from a different perspective.
Okay. I'm going to break it down into 2 different ways. So as like a Phantom fan and like all the other Phantom stories I've read, I feel like this is, kind of right in the middle there for me. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely not the worst one. I like it. It's enjoyable. It feels very much like a Phantom story, kind of fits right into that groove and that mold. So, I don't think it aims to appeal to Phantom fans and be, this kind of wowing you with something completely new. I feel like it's a lot of treading on tropes and things we understand about the character in a slightly different way. As a comic book fan, I think this is a bit of a breath of fresh air, just because he's the first costume hero, and he's now playing on the shelves again with a lot of the other superheroes and capes that are out there. And so the reason why I say that is because this book really leans into the idea that he's a man, he can get injured, and each Singh Brotherhood member he fights, there is, he has to think it through. There has to be, kind of an action and a response. It's not like it's Batman dropping down on 20 guys and just roundhouse kicking them all in the matter of one panel. This is, it's very tactical. And I think that inner monologue is important to help kind of clue new readers in. And on that, note, I've been kind of evangelizing this series to a lot of comic book readers I know to like get on the bus. And that's something I noticed that they're drawn to as well when they give it a shot. Sometimes they don't listen to me, but, I think 2 different thoughts there. One, and then again, going back to the comic fan, I would just say it's punching above a lot of what's out there.
Yeah, that's interesting, and that's one
weird.
thing. Yeah, that's one thing that I've enjoyed about your input with these story with the Mad Cave ones, but also with the 2040 ones as well. Is that you come from it as a fan, but you also come from it as a comic, as a general comic book reader, I guess, for lack of a better term. And it's interesting, hearing that from you, because I think sometimes fans can be where the average
Insular, locked in their own little world.
yeah. That's a very good way of putting it. Thanks, Steve. So look, I enjoyed this story more the second time I read it. So again, in preparation for this podcast, I read issues 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as a whole, one after the other, instead of waiting a month or 2 months in between drinks, so to speak. And in reading it, it was a real page turner. Like as you talked about, Steve, with the tension of on multiple fronts. You've got the Phantom, as you said, also Scott. Like knocking out the guys one by one, and then you've got the tension, the negotiation. I remember the movies, whenever there's like a bank heist or something, you got the negotiator having to talk down the villain. Like there's that real that tension, like you made mention as well, Steve. And then you've also got like the game, that sort of like the twist with the band being imprisoned in the end and stuff like that, where the Phantom just kind of laughs at him, and they're always a couple of steps ahead. And like any good thriller novel, that twist or that step ahead, which is revealed at the end, is a great way of doing it. So I enjoyed that. Look, I think we'll get straight into it. I think when I first read the first issue, I enjoyed what they brought forward, but the whole eyes thing was a real jarring moment as a hardcore fan. And I wonder if that turned off a lot of hardcore fans straight away. Like first issue in, they go, "Oh crikey, they don't know who the Phantom is because they're showing the eyes." So I wonder if that was, yeah. Although, what do you guys think about that?
I think they heard the backlash, because you see in other issues, I think it's either issue 3, issue 4, where they have another opportunity to show the Phantom's face, and they don't. They put a cloth over it. They do the fancy shadowing. They cut his head out of the panel. They do all those sort of things to make sure you can't see it. So I think, oh crikey, we really stuffed up here. We better fix this, or make sure we do not do this again. It's one thing to take the Phantom in a new direction. It's another thing to just blast, something that's key at the heart of the Phantom right off the water. Sorry, Scott.
Oh no, you're good. I was gonna say, I think we saw on the internet the backlash amongst a lot of the hardcore fans. Like it was pretty, intense. And I do think you're right, Steve, that they paid attention and they made adjustments later, because there were plenty of weird little tricks they did. I think, as most comic book readers would probably gloss over it and not pay attention to it. That's just the way things are done. But, I do think the way they danced around it later, I think is totally acceptable and fine. And honestly, I don't think people are going to be none the wiser or really think about it. I get why they did it. It was, they want to humanize him a little bit, even though I didn't really like the facial design, to be honest with you. But, we'll see what they do. I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to treat this going forward, because it's, I'm assuming they know it's an issue and that they got that feedback and corrected it, but they have, these one shots coming out. So are they going to kind of adhere to that and see how it goes? They got to revert back. It's the same creative team as far as we know. So who knows?
Well, I hope they do, because it is central to the character, and it wasn't a good way to start issue 1 off. Like you, Jem, I've probably reread issue 1 now about 3 times now. Like I've got a copy. I've read it digitally a couple of times, and the first time you see the Phantom when he's battling on the plane, that's not drawn well. The very first scene, you look at that and he looks like a short, stocky, pudgy, used to be Phantom. Then the the other few panels on that page are okay. And then you turn the page and you see the Phantom's face and you think, oh, this is crap. Where's this going? Because it's going downhill really, really fast. But thankfully, it's not like that for the whole series. I think the art, there are some times when the proportions of the Phantom and maybe other characters, but that's what I'm paying attention to, aren't right. That seems too wide, or just doesn't seem fit. But and it does happen a few times throughout the series. But on the whole, though, it's usually done pretty good. I think he's got issues with legs.
I reckon. Look, I'm not an artist. I have creators in my family and stuff like that. But I reckon the Phantom is quite a hard hero to draw because it's literally just, a one piece. But I reckon his style, and he's gotten into the groove of drawing the Phantom a lot better as the issues come along. And there's some really nice one-page spreads and stuff like that. Look, I would like to think that King Features and Mad Cave did learn about, that, hey, hang on, we've made a mistake, let's get it fixed. And I think they've done a good job with that. And it'll be interesting if ever we can, maybe we got to communicate with the artist and with Russell and see if we can get a bit of an insight there. But that might not ever happen. Let's go along the lines of that. That Chronicle Chamber. Without sounding too egotistical, we led the charge and got that change. So that's great to see. But yeah, apart from the odd panel which you made mention, I liked pretty much everything else about the artwork. There's a lot of little detail. The thing that I really did like with what Ray and Ray Fawkes, the writer, did with the Phantom was I did like his characterization. Like I enjoyed getting to know the Phantom from behind the mask, so to speak, with the purple think buttons, think captions and stuff like that. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that. I also like getting to know Asif Singh, the main bad guy as well, and even Garan, you kind of get to know him a little bit more as well with how he thinks and how he reacts and stuff like that. So I think Ray did a great job of developing the Phantom, but also developing the secondary characters as well. Yeah, you guys have got anything to add to that?
I think having a series like a 5-part series gives you the opportunity and the space to do that, whereas we as Australian Frew readers are, reading the Frew stories, reading the Egmont stories, they've got 30 pages or 20 odd pages now, and you don't have time to get all that in a monologue. You want to get the story going. So having these 5 issues, and they're decent size too, decent amount of pages within each issue, you get the space to read that in a monologue. And I think that's very much, I think that's an American thing. Like you talk about those think button bubbles or the think boxes, and it's got the colorization to say, oh, this is the Phantom talking. It's purple and it's got the skull. It's as if talking.
I love the skull. I like the skull. Sort of yeah.
What do you reckon, Scott?
I'm always a sucker for those things. I think a lot of that falls on the letterer and allowing them to kind of play around with how that looks, and you don't really think about it, but there's a lot of decisions being made in the font choice and what they bold or not bold, or how it's broken up so you naturally stop at certain spots. I'm totally a fan of that, especially when they color it differently, just so each character has a color and you can kind of you develop a voice for them and you can read it in that voice. As far as going back to the characterization, I like Garan a lot because he's very calm, and I think the way we're introduced to him, we're introduced to him, through the Phantom right off the bat, but then a lot of it's through Asif Singh, and it's kind of from this undermined position or looking down on him. So he's very calm and calculating, and kind of the more of the serious player in this. So the Phantom's allowed to be jokey on the other end, where he's kind of hopping around and he's thinking things through, but there's a lot of little quips and one-liners that pop up in there.
And that's one of the things that I actually like is I I know you've read a lot of the old school Ray Moore Lee Falk stories, Scott and Steve. You know, you like me, we grew up on them and we've read them probably a million times each. Those one-liney, quick-witted Phantom is something that I enjoyed, and seeing Ray capturing that, Ray Falk's obviously the writer of the series, seeing him being able to capture that and portray it with from from a modern point of view, it's something that a lot of writers that we've seen write the Phantom have not been able to recapture. So I really did like how he did that.
I think there's a an idea or a goal of going dark and gritty all the time, or like this is just something that a lot of publishers and comic producers naturally do. And like this one, like the art, it takes place over, a 20 like a, overnight. So it's like mostly dark. So they easily could have gone with that because it just fits the literal color on the pages of what you're reading.
And yet it's still bright and vibrant. Like it's got the
Yeah.
shade and the shadow, but I wouldn't call it dark and gritty. It's full of life.
Right.
It's and yeah, like I said, and vibrant. And the characterization, the fan's always thinking about somebody else rather than himself. You see him talking about Diana or thinking about Diana. You see him, as he's plotting his next move. If I do this, or he's going to do that, and sort that out. We've got to make sure that the chief Phantom Giran's dad is all right. How to make sure to do that. So you see his process of thinking, making sure that he keeps everyone safe and tries to make sure that he can get through it himself.
And that's who the fandom is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like the parts at the end involving the band kids, and it's kind of like there's a scene in Watchmen with Horshank or Rorschach. I'm not locked in them. I'm not locked in there with them. They're locked in here with me, and that's I enjoyed that little part there. And it bookends the series. So you see these little things at the start. The Phantom playing with the band kids, and then you see how they actually come to the fore at the end. And there's lots of little things like that. These little, foreshadowing, but you don't know it's foreshadowing at the start, and then it comes to fruition at the end. So I really like those sort of things.
One of the things that I love about how Ray's done it with the Banda is that he's tiptoed that whole white savior concept very, very well, where throughout the whole story, with the way they've depicted Guran, the way they've depicted the Banda, where the Phantom doesn't have to worry about the kids because he knows the kids are able to look after themselves because from birth they are of the poison tribe. They, and we've seen that with in Lee Falk stories and stuff where they are the most feared of all the jungle people and stuff like that. Where so I think Ray's tiptoed that balance really, really well where the Phantom's not their savior. He's their friend. He's their equal. He, fights crime alongside with them. And I think Ray's showed how it can be done. So, hopefully, those who are writing the Netflix series, TV series at the moment, you get a good, get some good tips from how Ray's done that.
What do you think of their modernisation?
Now, I actually liked it because I think this is something that Egmont have done wrong, and that they're showing it's not just the Banda tribe, but all of the tribes in their comics as something back in the 1800s, where of course they're going to have power, of course they're going to have fridges, of course they're going to have medicine, of course they're going to have trucks and cars and stuff like that. I think Egmont probably needs to take a bit of a leaf out of what Ray's done here, and also the DC series back in the late 80s as well, is that they're not all going to be wearing their loincloths. They're going to be wearing clothes. They're going to be knowing who Kobe Bryant is in the basketball, and who the latest soccer star is, or, seeing they were colonised by the English, they might even be able to play some bit of cricket and stuff like that as well. They've got to know all this type of stuff, and so I like the modernisation.
The thing in the, like, say, Egmont or even Frew or the newspaper, the way that I've come to terms with it in my head is they know it's there and they can go and get it if they want, but they also enjoy the traditional life of life in the village. But yeah, I think that you can embrace both the traditional and the mod cons.
I think for it being an American book, like a new American book, new series, trying to get like comic readers on, you kind of need the modernization, and not to like. And this isn't for all like the hardcore fans. This isn't to say that the traditional's bad or anything. This just kind of goes back into history of American comic books here and how a lot of people of color were depicted. And it's so easy to do a drawing and be well intentioned with it, but still kind of step into something that reeks of racist propaganda that's been kind of proliferated for decades past. I think that's the hard thing. So like I like it. I think it was done well, and it makes sense too. It's not like they they overcorrected and like in like really focused on it. I think it is a delicate balance of we want to stick to who our characters are and keep the focal point still on the Phantom, but we just want to make sure that we're careful and cautious because we also want new comic book readers pick this up on the stands and walk home and become a Phantom fan at the end of the day too, and not and knowing full well that or not having to try to talk around a depiction they might see and have an association with just because there's plenty of other comics like that had negative connotations.
Yeah. So here's something interesting for those who want to peek behind the curtain. Our most read article on our website is an article on if the Phantom is racist or not. This might sound controversial, but I think the reason why Black Panther, the movie, has been so successful is the way that the African people in there have been portrayed. And when you look at, the way other things like Tarzan movies and all that as well, is I don't think portray it as well as what they did in the Marvel movie of the Black Panther. And so, and this is coming from three white guys, that has to be said, we're white guys. I've just recently done my DNA and I don't have any color apart from white in me. But I think, I think the way that Mad Cave Studios has done it has to be applauded, and I think they are ahead of how Egmont or Team Phantom are portraying, and I think that needs to. But yeah, I think that's worth a mention. Yeah, and a call out to our listeners and watchers and followers. We want to hear your thoughts. So if you think that Mad Cave have missed the mark in this area, and you can show us, please let us know, because we may be three guys here, but we are. One of the things with what we portray is that we want people to give us their opinions. So please give us your opinions, if you agree or whether you disagree with us as well.
Being the Phantom, you pick up the Phantom because that's great, but the hero's only as good as his villain. What do you think of Azif Singh and the way that he's portrayed in this story?
I liked him. I thought he was smart enough, cruel enough, but also practical enough. And then he also gave the Phantom a decent beating as well. So
after he'd been shot.
Yeah, but you gotta. But that's the thing that I like about. See, one of my favorite of all the Phantom villains that I like the most, I like the ones that have actually been able to match the Phantom from a physical point of view, but also from a mental point of view. I'm thinking of like Labunga, the Nomad, and the Python. And I think Asif is also one of those also who can match the Phantom in those areas, which I like about it.
I like him. I feel like he's a well layered villain. He's kind of a megalomaniac, I think is a good word for him. Where he's so sure of himself and his position, and he's been proven wrong multiple times in these 5 issues. Um, and I love that, every time something gums up his plan, he thinks it through and he, raises the bar. I think it's super easy in comic books, and a lot of comic books fall into this trope where the villain has his plan, he leaves it on the table, and it's just for the hero to jump through a bunch of traps and get to the end and fight the boss. And in this case, Asif is written in a way where he's, there's a reaction, and so he's going to pivot and change. And so, you see this thinking through. He calms himself down and he regains composure. I think it was near issue 4, or maybe it's issue 5, near the end, where there's a scene where he's like, screaming and shouting, and then you could see this visible regaining of his composure. Then he calms down and he's like, okay, here's how I can get the upper hand again. And I love that for him. I think it makes him a really good villain long term if they choose to go with it. I feel like they would, because they invested so much into building him up.
Well, he's got to break out of jail first if we're going to see him again. But I think that there's a panel in issue 1 where we're first really introduced to him. Actually, I think it's when he gets out of the helicopter, and we get to know everything about him within one panel. He is as if Singh, known as much for his rationalism as he is for his ruthlessness. He's going to be thinking things through. He's not going to be making rash decisions. He's going to be calm. And in that second issue where he's talking with Garan for the majority of it, he's always that calm level, but with the fire behind his eyes. He's going to get what he wants, but he's not going to waste energy doing it. It's going to be on his terms. Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah. Yep. While we're talking about depictions, probably a one word answer. Did we like seeing Garan as a different type of depiction, or do we like, or would we prefer seeing him as a short, fat guy?
I think the biggest thing for me was he wasn't the chief. He's the son of the chief. So that was the biggest one for me. But you could see that he's coming into his own and that he'll make a great chief. That was the biggest thing for me. The way he was drawn, as long as the Banda for me, a pygmy, they should be short, and he was at least shorter than the Phantom. And yeah, I don't think he was as tall as if either. I think all the other guys, I think he was still quite short. So as long as those sort of things are still in place.
Yeah, I like them. I think what they set up was, if they wanted to have almost like a buddy cop adventure thing going on with Phantom and Garan in the future, it just seems like you just can kind of see it, where they're always there lifting each other up, and it's almost like watching an action movie.
Yeah. And
like
it's not
Stallone
like
or Billy D. Williams or something. It's like Nighthawks.
I was thinking that he's not just the man in the van either. He can hold himself.
Yeah. He's almost the hero.
Yes.
Like,
he realizes that the tribe, the village, he's got to serve the village, and he really does everything he can to make sure that the village survives.
Yeah. There's aspects like when the Phantom's shot and being mended by Diana, and we'll talk about Diana in a second. And then Garan's literally, being the hero. And I think, again, that's one of the things that I like about what Ray Fawkes has done, is that he's, these secondary characters have their moment to shine. Diana, anything you want to make mention about Diana? She's a real side, she's a real side character in this one, but
You go first, Scott. I've gone first every other time. You go first in this one, Scott.
It's all right. I think it's kind of hard to think of something this like she's fun and like she, definitely has a purpose in this story, and I like her relationship with the Phantom, what we see of it. I'm hoping we see more. Maybe that's one of the characters on the table where we could see a little bit more of and really understand. I mentioned this in my review a couple times. Understand what the family dynamic situation is. That's one area where we really didn't know too much of what's going on. We know they have at least one child together.
Yeah.
And that's it. We don't have any mention of anything else. And their relationship, obviously, she was a nurse still, and she is like the best at it ever. So we know that's established, and her and Phantom get along really well, and they can crack jokes at each other, and Garan is part of it. So there's a bond between the three of them. But it's one area where I wish we could get a little bit more.
Yeah, so we've just spent however long just talking about how fleshed out Garan was, Phantom, and as if all are, but Diana's not really fleshed out a lot. Like I said, you're talking about side characters, secondary characters. She's like a third tier at the moment. Not really a housewife, but a cave wife, I guess. That's all she is. The only part she plays is there at home in the Skull Cave. But like we do get a little slight peek to see that she was obviously a nurse and is able to patch the Phantom up, and she does that on a few occasions. Obviously have a loving relationship, and they have at least one child, so that's all mentioned in there. But one thing that I'll mention, and it's one of the negatives that I've said before, that overall I enjoy it, but there are a couple of negatives. It's the first time I've seen whiskey in the Skull Cave. When she's taking a swig of whiskey and offering it to Garan, I thought, no, I'm never a fan of alcohol in the Skull Cave, and I wouldn't have thought of. I don't know. That's just the traditionalist in me in coming to the Phantom.
There is
something I didn't like.
There's one story. It's Lily Palmer's Secret. This is produced back in maybe 2012, 2015, where Diana's a person who pretends to be Diana's father comes into the Skull Cave, and he's an alcoholic, and he sniffs out a decanter with medicine, an alcohol cabinet with a decanter and a couple of different things. And the Phantom said, "Oh, these are all presents from kings and sultans and dukes and stuff like that." So that's So I remember that being there. But you're right. But one of the things, while you're right that Diana's probably a third or maybe even a fourth level character at the moment, but there's the little things in her that I've enjoyed, like being able to be, and it's kind of shows her spunk or her true character that is about to be shown in future stories, is that she's cool under pressure by patching up the Phantom. But then she's also got that jovial side to her as well. Like when the Phantom's telling the story in the first issue at the start, she's like, no, don't tell me it from halfway. Tell me, what happened before that. And then at the end of it, where he's getting patched up and the Phantom's talking about how Diana's enjoying, withholding the soup and, playing with the Phantom a little bit too much and stuff. So there's enough of a little bit of a tease that I reckon she's going to be an interesting character.
Just a little note there. Lily Palmer's Secret was the Phantom back in 1998 and was published through in issue number 1197.
There you go. I was a few years out.
Or 2012. Oh, geez, I haven't read that one that recently.
Now, Scott, you used a word in your last review, and again, while we're talking about it, really enjoyed your reviews. Please keep it up, and I know I've heard from other fans as well that they've enjoyed it as well. You used the word adaptation. What do you mean by that?
In looking at a lot of other Phantom stories, sometimes they try not to. I feel like there's an overall understanding of like who the Phantom is and maybe a an idea of a canon that kind of spans around the globe. And some creators like to try to play and add to that without like stepping on too many toes and retconning things. And like that idea exists. In looking at this, I feel like this is a, when I say adaptation, I feel like they took a lot of things about the Phantom and they want to create their own thing with it. So they take kind of a, we like these pieces, we want to change this piece or that piece. And so, as I reread it and was thinking about it for the reviews and everything, it just felt like, like a film adaptation. I think it's like 1996 again, and we got the Billy Zane adaptation coming out. So this, I feel like, is the, more modernized adaptation of that, where they just take a lot of things we like and it just feels different. It doesn't fit into any of those existing canons. It's its own thing, even though it seems like they're carefully trying to release that information of what this world looks like without really going all in, because maybe there's a hesitation to turn longtime fans off. I'm not sure.
Better to be gentle and let change happen over a period of time rather than just go bang and allow the tree to break, I think.
I like how you've phrased that. Is it an adaptation where it's slightly unhinged from, say, like the newspaper stories? I would say yes. Have they? I think they've probably followed maybe 70-80% of what I would call established law and have played it safe. Like they haven't gone down the route of, say, The Last Phantom, where
no, they haven't.
Where they just go, okay, we are going to throw the the baby out of the bathwater. The Phantom's got the Phantom's just turned his back, and so I don't think they've done that. But yeah, it's an interesting way of doing it. I like how they've done it. Like they've definitely added elements, like they've given it a modern twist, a modern setting. They've made the tribes people a little bit more palatable. So they've made these elements, and so I'm liking where they are at the moment. But we're only 5 issues in, so at the moment, yes, I dig where they are, but there's still room for them to lose the plot like Dynamite did.
Something else to think about too, forgot to mention. So I don't know if you guys got this vibe, but it seems like the Phantom knows of the Singh Brotherhood, but his contact with them, this Phantom's contact, has been very minimal. And this is more of the first bigger conflict with them. And then to add to that, this first story, we're getting Phantom versus Singh Brotherhood. And then the next story, we're getting Phantom versus Skyban. It's following the format of the very first serials, as if someone read it and said, yep, here's the villain, here's the villain. If we continue to follow that format, I'm going to be like,
You already know what the third story is going to be. Is that what you're saying, Scott?
We'll see where the golden circle falls in the line. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So rewriting of the first. But talking about the Singh Brotherhood, they're pretty much just depicted as drug smugglers here, whereas and I guess they do mention something about an international organization, but we don't see much more than them just being drug smugglers. Whereas you see at least in the original story, yes, they're pirates, but they're very successful pirates and have been going on for centuries and centuries. It's mentioned that as if, was it his dad or his grandfather and his uncle have fought with the Phantom, but he'd make him old by then. But there's no mention of him being 400 or 500 years old. It's just that's someone who my granddad dealt with. I'm not going to have to deal with that now. Maybe that's a commentary on the Phantom. The Phantom was something that my granddad read. I'm not dealing with that now. Maybe that's a bit of a play on it now. Or maybe I'm just reading. I didn't even think of that until I just started talking right then. But yeah, I think we were talking about it. Will we see a Zif again? I think the bigger question is, will we see the Singh Brotherhood again? Because to me, as if's in prison. Is there a global network to bring him out? Is there a second in charge who are going to avenge him, or is the second in charge now going to take over?
Yeah,
I think so.
That's a good point. Is are they? Is this just a one-off, or is it the real worldwide criminal organization, and this is just an off-branch? Yeah.
And why do they need to rely on the Skyban? So for me, in the original, the Singh Brotherhood are the big boys, and the Skyban are the helpers. But in this case, they wouldn't be able to do anything if they didn't have the Skyban.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like the Skyband's like their DHL or UPS or something. The one thing I will say that I think lends to the idea we will see them again is because, the internationalness that they mentioned of the Singh Brotherhood, you can see it in their henchmen. Like there are different henchmen that have different ethnicities and backgrounds, which I thought was really cool in the art. Like they don't like point it out and draw your attention to it, but you think about it and then you're like, oh yeah, and so it gives the idea subtly that, they pulled henchmen from all over the world, to join their cause.
And he does make mention of that too, when I take over a village, I think the Phantom might say it. I can't remember, one of them does, but when they take over, they take the people as well, and they come and join them. Some of them are a bit more well trained than others.
Mm. All right, so there's some of our deep thoughts, and if you've ever listened to any of our podcasts, we do tend to overthink a lot of stuff that we read. Now we're gonna try and do a bit of a quick fire topics and things and stuff like that. So first of all, does the Phantom need his stripe jocks back?
Yes, please. Yep. I'm quick on that one. None of this Defenders of the Earth full purple stuff needs to be broken up. Even if it's a darker shade of purple, if they can't do the stripes, just give me something else. Just
I'd say yes. The trend of getting rid of the tights or underoos or underwear is gone. It's back in style. Superman's got his back, so the Phantom needs his back in the States as well.
Yeah.
All right. I'll admit I'm now plus 40, so it means I'm old and grumpy. So that means I'm a forkist, and so I want his stripe jocks back as well. Now, one of the things that I only picked up on the second time reading it is the bad guys on the radios are called tigers. Now, again, I believe this is me overthinking things. Now, there is a famous old jungle saying called "The Phantom is tougher or stronger than 10 tigers." Now, he knocked out how many bad tigers? About 10. Is this a nod? Is this a nod to the old jungle saying?
I like it. If it is, that's great. What I didn't think of that at all. I actually thought of there's a professional wrestler called Tiger Ali Singh. So I was merging the world of professional wrestling with the Singh Brotherhood, and so that's where my humor went. So I like
you might be right. Yeah.
All right. Covers. Were there too many covers?
Yes.
You don't
I'm
need
not
to
a
buy
very
more.
cover guy though, but yeah, I feel like issue 1, yeah, fine, go to town. When you get down to every issue having multiple covers, I'll take that back if they do something super unique and different about a variant cover instead of just being a different art. There was a series that came out a while ago that included sound when you open the book, and so you'd get, and there was 2 different. It was an expensive book. It was like a $10 single issue, but you open it, one had Godzilla on the cover, the other had King Kong. You open it, each one had their roars, depending on which variant you got.
Was that King Kong versus Godzilla versus Justice League?
Yeah.
I love that. I love this series 1. I thought that was great.
I love that idea.
My
they
son's
did
just
that
over
for the
the side, so
Phantom.
yeah, I like that too.
So
Maybe they could put the
right.
Chronicle Chamber theme on there, and
So we're all right. Well, yeah, I think that's interesting. So something unique. Now, I did like how a lot of these comic book shops and online stores and stuff like that had their chance of doing it, because I think that's good in the sense that, like, a lot of these comic book shops wouldn't probably house the Phantom or sell the Phantom. So having Boom Tube Comics, which obviously done it with the competition that we've got. We've got Harrison's store. I did have a link here, but I can't remember. I've closed that. But there was a lot of other stalls that had these type of releases as well. So I think it was clever in the sense that it got the comic book shop in a lot of stores that may have not originally housed it. So I'm happy with that. Now
I'd like to see prints of them. That's something I would like. If there's all these different covers and there's all these different artworks, I'd love to see the prints. That'd be awesome to have them up on the wall.
Okay, cool. That's a good idea. Now another thing that I've made mention, when the Phantom is, I think it's with Gran's mum. I don't know the name, or it might have been a nurse that's looking after the dad. But this is in the first issue. She says, "Oh, Phantom, the guardian of the Eastern Dark." Now, for those who have come in late, that is another moniker or another nickname for the Phantom. Eastern Dark is somewhere over in the mountains where they've come and push drugs, slavery, and stuff like that with all the jungle tribesmen, and the Phantom is the guardian from these people. Now, what's actually interesting is, again, this is on page 9 of issue 1. Again, this is another example of us overthinking a lot of things, probably. But the drugs come from the mountains, and which is where the Eastern Dark is usually laid. So do we think that is a potential follow-up story where the Eastern Dark is portrayed?
Could well be. And yes, it is Garan's mother. It's mentioned that, my husband will be pleased to see you. It could well be. It could be where the Singh have their HQ there in the Eastern Dark. It could be one shot number 2. First we've got Skyban, then we've got Phantom, the Guardian of the Eastern Dark, or DAC.
Cool. All right. Ray's work as the writer. Yes or no that he's done a good job?
Yeah, I think it's really good. It's really well thought out, and it's a really enjoyable story. And there's a lot of talking about those things we just talked about. There's a lot of, I think, little story threads he could pick up on and run on. He was careful to layer that in there.
Yes, I've enjoyed the work. There's been a couple of issues which I've mentioned, but on the whole, positive with it.
Yeah, and the artist Russell Olson.
Yeah, I like his work, and I think I agree with what you guys were saying earlier, that it got better as the issues went along. There are a couple panels. I think the ones where I noticed where it looked a little bit off, Phantom was doing something acrobatic typically, and it's just probably very difficult to do. But overall, I thought it was a very beautiful looking series.
I'm not as positive about the art as I am on the writing. I think it's pretty good. But I've seen better artists, or better work done on the Phantom.
Yeah. One of the things that I did like with both Ray and Russell is that there was scenes with the jungle which happened in like issue 1 and then issue 5. And I think you said in your review, Scott, how they kind of bookend series, where it shows the beauty but also the danger of the jungle. And I like how they've done that, like whether it's a bird flying through and then all of a sudden you've got the crocodile, or you've got the piranha, which I don't think there's piranha in Africa, but that's beside the point.
Well, there are on the way to I just thought that must be the river in between the mainland and the Isle of Eden, so piranha.
But so I like that type of stuff as well. And then also one of the things that I did like with Russell is that he was able to put some emotion in the Phantom's face, whether it was him, it was issue 3 or 4 where he's got the gun and he's pointing it, and you see him like squinting, like, as he's taking aim with the gun, and you can see literally the way he's done it, the work with his mask, he's kind of, squinting with his mask. So there's those type of elements that I thought was quite good as well.
I was just going to ask, do you think a Mad Caves, the Phantom, should cross over with anybody? I know we have Defenders of the Earth, but like take that out of the picture.
Well, Defenders in the Earth is like a future that thing. I always think of that as like 5 or 6 generations in front of where we are, whatever it's supposed to be. But could he be like Mad Cave do Dick Tracy now, don't they? That's them. Yeah, so that could could probably work well. These 2 pulp heroes. Who else did Mad Cave do?
And they have Flash. I mean, I would think they could, since they have.
I think they got features like they've got enough of Flash, Gordon.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with King Features on speed dial over there, maybe they could do like Mandrake or something. But
it'd be good to bring him in.
Yeah.
Now, it's not the Phantom has crossover with Dick Tracy before in a
newspaper.
In the newspaper stories of Dick Tracy. So they are in, and if you're on YouTube, I'll include the panels here. So they are in an airport. Dick Tracy's going on holidays, and then a Mr. Walker with Devil walk across, and they have a chat for about 3 or 4 days. But in answer to your question, how's the Dick Tracy? Is it steeped in futuristic type of stuff, or is it more of a realistic type of world?
It's kind of it's a blend of both. It takes place in the 50s, so they moved it up a little bit. And this Dick Tracy's more of he's suffering PTSD from World War II. I mean, it doesn't mean it's a dark book, but like that definitely is part of it, where almost every character, whether they're a good guy or a bad guy, served in some capacity, and some, enjoyed killing, like we see with like Flat Top in that series. Whereas others, they abhor war, and so that kind of plays into the book a little bit. It's like a gentle thing in the background throughout all of it, because they're almost to 20 issues right now. But it's definitely a period piece, though. Yeah.
Because doesn't Dick Tracy have like an alien stepdaughter or an alien adopted daughter or something in the newspaper?
In the strip,
series?
Yeah. That is not in this book. This is like a reboot. It's they started from zero. He's not married, doesn't have kids. He's meeting Tess for more or less the first time in the beginning of the series. So
yeah,
I've been keen to watch the Warren Beatty movie again. I couldn't find it on any of the streaming services the other day. So
I think that could quite work, and it could be our Phantom's father or grandfather and stuff like that. But if you've got, well, I suppose you've got Defenders of the Earth, which has got plenty of aliens, but
especially now.
Yeah. So in short, because this is supposed to be the short section of the podcast, yes.
Yes, there can be crossover.
Yes. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about the future. So obviously this series, we're not really sure if it has ended at 1 or 5, or whether we're going to get a couple of one-shots and then we're going to get, say, like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in a new series or not. Now, I personally would like to see that. I would like to see a return to the regular series. Like we see Flash, Dick Tracy, which you just made mention. Dick Tracy's up to issue 20. What issues the Flash up to now?
16 or 17, and they have that, and then they have a quarterly series, which is his own thing too. I think has like 5 or 6 issues.
Yeah,
and just worth noting that we're talking about Flash Gordon, not the Flash like the DC Justice League runs very fast type person. No.
Yeah,
the slower Flash,
more futuristic though.
Yeah. So, would you like to see the regular series, or are you happy with one-offs?
I like the best of both worlds, like you just described. You've had this series, it's gone for a year or 5 issues. Give us a one shot or 2, and then start another series. Whether the one shots like a pilot, a pilot using the Skyban. There we go. There's a good to launch the second series. We don't know. Hopefully Mad Cave does, and they've got big plans for the good and big plans for the character, and not just, Flash Gordon sidekick in Defenders of the Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like regular series. If we can get like that's kind of what I'm hoping for is that we get whatever these one shots are, and then in the background they're maybe working through whatever the next 5 or 6 issue series looks like.
That's a good point. Maybe these one-offs are kind of like to build them some time to be able to get the creator team to be 5 issues ahead or something like that, so they can, yeah.
Well, how many pages would the one shot be?
I think it's about 40 odd.
80. I thought the first one was like 80 pages, and then that volume, we had that article on the site that's going to have all 3 one shots. I think it was like 260 or 70 something pages. So
so they've got 3 one shots in the thing, all about 80 pages. All right, because I was just thinking, well, the 5 series, and if they're, how many pages were they? 20 odd, 30 pages each.
22.
22. So 22 times 5, that's over 100 pages. So yeah, rightio. You're getting a whole series within one book.
Yeah, and actually, on that note, the volume 1 for the first 5 issues comes out in July. So maybe these one shots are kind of placeholding. The volume comes out for the first 5 issues, and then maybe the plan is to have a jumping on point for people who read that and then want to continue reading the Phantom. I don't know.
Yeah. Cool. Now, obviously this is a dumb question, but will you all be continuing to buy these series?
Yes,
yeah.
And listeners, will you be continuing buying it? For those who have maybe just read the first one and thought, oh, what's going on? They've showed the Phantom's eyes. Hopefully, maybe what we're saying might change your mind a little bit. So hopefully, if you guys got anything else you just want to make mention of, or questions or anything?
I don't think so. I want to know where their kid is. That's what I want to have answered by Mad Cave Studios. They mentioned, so I want to know about that family dynamic. Please tell me, Mad Cave Studios.
See, for me, it's just like, well, the Phantom always gets educated overseas, pretty much wherever his mother is educated. So I just assumed, Kit Jr.'s overseas. He's probably at uni or something. He's over in the States. That's where I went, or he's working for the UN somewhere.
Okay, we'll just make mention of the kid or kids, Kit, Heloise, whatever. We'll learn about that in the future. Could we see a lack of a better term, with what Freud tried to do with the Kid Phantom, or with what DC have done with their DC superhero, what's that kids show? With the Teen Titans, and then they also did DC Superhero Girls, which had like Batman, Supergirl, and all that. I know my oldest daughter loved that series. So, could that be something that Mad Cave might be able to do?
I'd say no. I'd think it'd be in their best interest just to keep to this character at the moment before you try diluting the pond.
They have like 4 imprints, and they have one called Paper Cuts, which is geared towards young children. And so that could be, if they have the license, they could be like, hey, we want to make, Baby Phantom or Phantom Junior or something, Kid Phantom, for the Paper Cuts line. Yeah, because they have there's Mad Cave, Nakama Press, Paper Cuts, and I can't remember that 4th one.
Interesting.
But the head of Mad Cave, Mark London, he has a Substack you can subscribe to, and he talks about these things. So it's pretty interesting.
Well, it could work that way then, I guess, because it wouldn't be, in the whole thing. It's actually a different. Well, it's not a different publisher, but a different publisher that's aimed at a different dynamic. So maybe that could work. But to put it under the Mad Cave banner, like what we've just got here with the Phantom, I would think wouldn't work. Yeah, I wouldn't want to see it.
All right, we might have to. Occasionally, we stumble upon something, and that is definitely a stumble upon. Might be something you might have to subscribe to the Substack and drop a hint, Scott.
I did subscribe a week or so ago. That's how I found this out. He released a new episode or issue today. So if he somehow listens to this podcast, I am reading his Substack.
Awesome. All right. So, guys, first of all, reminder of the competition. If you have a review or you have thoughts that you want to post, you can be in the competition or the draw for one of these. If there's only 6 people that give us their review, you just get one of these. If there's, say, 20, you will then have 1 out of 5 chance or 1 out of 3 chance. Yeah, 1 out of 3 chance to get one of those issues. So to be able to put your review, it needs to be on a social media post. So that's either Instagram, Facebook, and then also you can post it on YouTube as well.
I think it's been a good start, and there's some things I'd like to see continue, and I'd like to see it grow and flourish into a series that is very successful.
Yeah, well said. I got to say, I'm on this paper cuts Kid Phantom kick now. I reckon that's a great idea. More Phantom. Although my wife would not like that, but and I also like the idea of the variant cover making noise. Now, how awesome would that be? Whether it's like jungle sounds or something like that. Yeah,
or an old jungle saying.
Yeah,
that's something we didn't mention.
Sayings.
That was what about issue 5 when Garan just starts spouting all these different jungle sayings to match what's happening in the action or in the scene.
Yeah,
that was really good.
Yeah. Obviously, they're listening to our podcast where we say that every story should have a jungle saying, and he's reading it and goes, "Oh, I better get 10
better get them in.
Cram them in." Yeah, no, well, variant covers the reason why I want something super different is I remember the 90s when Marvel was, I think, the worst at this with lenticular covers, the foil nice and shiny. They just kind of flooded the market with it.
How about variant covers to do with jungle sayings?
Oh yeah,
I like that.
I literally just got
that's nice.
I got my stack. Yeah, I got a stack of issues, and these are all the metal ones. So like this one here, there's only 5 of them. So so I've literally got and it's like literally like a plate stuck on the front of the comic. So it's quite cool. I wasn't sure about those at first, but the metal ones, I think I'm gonna have to hunt down all the others now. So yeah. But look, thank you for listening or watching us. Really appreciate it. Again, make sure you post us your comments, your feedback, your reviews, so you can be in the draw. Our website is chroniclechamber.com. If you would like to join us, please contact us via our email, which is chroniclechamber@gmail.com. As always, with every issue, with everything we do, we want to hear your thoughts, your feedback, and your opinions on our social media platforms or over on our YouTube channel. And as always, from myself, happy Phantoming.
Happy Phantoming.
Happy Phantoming.
But you won't find the Phantom. He finds